We light a candle in gratitude. Will you join with me? We light a candle in gratitude for all the ways God has been faithful in our lives. We light a candle recognizing our longings for God in our lives. We light a candle in thanksgiving. Amen. Good morning.
From Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 24. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can serve two masters, for a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. And then the second scripture did not get into the PowerPoint, but this one comes from Isaiah chapter 55. Ho, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you that have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Listen, so that you may live. I will make with you an everlasting covenant, my steadfast, sure love for David. See, I made him a witness to the peoples, a leader and commander for the peoples. See, you shall call nations that you do not know, and nations that do not know you shall run to you. Because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified you. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake their way, and the righteous their thoughts. Let them return to the Lord, that he may have mercy on them, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So today I'm going to share with you stories of Guinea, and these are related to these two scriptures, but I hope that you will be inspired. So how is it that I felt closer to God living in a tiny village in a Muslim country than I do living amongst Christians here in the United States? That's the question that I will explore with you today. First, you'll need some background. Next. Guinea, the Republic of Guinea, is a coastal country in West Africa. Guinea is the same size as Oregon, but has a population of 12.4 million people compared to Oregon's 4.2 million people. Guinea achieved independence from France in 1958. Guinea is a predominantly Islamic country, with Muslims representing between 85 to 90% of the population. Half its population is under the age of 18. Christians make up a small minority and include Roman Catholics, mainline Protestants, including some Methodists, and some evangelical and Pentecostal congregations. Guinea's economy is largely dependent on agriculture and mineral production, namely bauxite. It is to this country that I went as a Peace Corps response volunteer in 2012. I was an agroforestry volunteer working for a USAID-funded program focused on environmental governance. This program was based in 3 locations, one being within the Hordiera Prefecture, located in the coastal region, a few hours' drive from Conakry, the capital of Guinea. I was based in the village of Bagia, along with a few other Guinean staff. The president of the district, Yaya Gea Camara, provided us accommodations within his compound. Next. Life in the village is subsistence living. No electricity, which means no refrigeration. We drew our water from a well. As a Peace Corps volunteer, I had my very own hole in the ground. I had a small portable solar charger to charge my telephone. You can see it sitting on the little chair in the top photo and sitting on the top branch on the right in the loo. The Gea compound included buildings with concrete floors, but many people lived in huts with dirt floors and thatch roofs. Next. People in Guinea, like other African countries, emphasize the social. You are expected to greet everyone. As the people in my area were mostly Susu, these greetings sounded like Ikana, Tanamuna, Tanayomuna, Inuwali. If you do not return a greeting, you are thought to be a bad person. As I rode my bike through the villages, people would call out fote, the word for white person, Ikana, and then of course I would be expected to respond. This expectation kept my thoughts very present. There was no opportunity to be thinking about other things or daydreaming, as pretty soon someone would be calling out a greeting. Next. My coworkers came from different ethnic groups, but we all lived and worked together. These photos also include some of the interns that we had working with us for a couple months. We ate together each evening. 2 men, 1 Malinke and 1 Fulane, shared a bed. Not because of any hanky-panky, but because that's how Guineans live. The beds in Guinea are all big, designed to accommodate several people. Next. In Guinea, there is a lack of material distractions. No TV, no video games, not even books, and very few toys, just radio. They have each other and the natural world all around them. Kids play with whatever they can find, like the 4 boys with the wheel, or making a pocketbook out of a leaf. They attend weddings and funerals and dance long into the night. Next. There were no stores in most of the villages, so it wasn't like you could easily go to the store to buy food or anything else. There were no restaurants where you could have a meal if you didn't have the food or energy to prepare dinner. Going shopping meant traveling by motorcycle and or taxi an hour to Dubreka. Or you could go to the farmer's market, which was held weekly at a neighboring village. Women especially would go each week to the market to sell their produce and buy food they didn't grow themselves, or other items such as soap, farming tools, and fabric. Next. Our slide is stuck. In Guinea, every item you purchase includes a personal interaction. You request each item and the storekeeper will take it down from the shelf. Or at the market, you purchase directly from the women who grew the okra, chili peppers, or eggplant. How many people do you talk to while grocery shopping? maybe none if you use the self-checkout. In Guinea, I will have interacted with at least half a dozen people and likely more while shopping. Then I will talk to the taxi driver and other passengers on the way home rather than driving home alone in my own car. In Guinea, each of those interactions reinforce the social web of interdependence. So if the PowerPoint is working on Zoom, you should have it slide with the rice. Next. My coworkers and I paid our host family to prepare us dinner each night, which consisted of rice and one of 3 sauces. For breakfast, we either ate rice and sauce left over from the night before, or we ate bread, baguettes, that someone had brought from the city of Dubreka. We might have butter, honey, beehives were one of our agroforestry projects, peanut butter, or mayonnaise to put on the bread. People typically didn't eat lunch, and some poor families only had enough to eat once a day. So as we went out amongst the different villages to do our work, we depended on those around us to offer something to eat. We might get fruit like mangoes, bananas, oranges, or for a real treat, some watermelon. Sometimes someone may have roasted some cassava root or have some peanuts to share with us, or someone may ask us to join them for tea. In this way, I was dependent on others for much of my food. As I went about my activities, I became amazed at how my daily needs were met one way or another. I rarely went hungry. God was providing for me through the people around me. And the villagers were dependent on each other to grow the food, prepare the food, go fishing, repair motorcycles, make their clothes, or work at the granite mine to earn money to buy those things they didn't make themselves. In the US, I pride myself on being self-sufficient. I earn my money, and with the money I earn, I buy my groceries. I own a car. I drive or ride my bike wherever I need to go. But my material comforts here in America cause separation from others and from God. Self-sufficiency has become a false idol. Next. As a Peace Corps volunteer, I was privileged to have a bicycle, which was a wonderful way to get to the various villages in our district. But most people in Guinea didn't have bicycles. My host family and coworkers didn't have a car. A few people had motorcycles, including my host brother, which you can't see. To leave the district, I either had to flag someone down or depend on taxis to get around. Taxis in Guinea follow certain routes and fill up with people going in that direction. For a typical taxi, you would have 2 people in the front seat in addition to the driver, and 4 in the back seat. For longer distances, there were minibuses. Thus, in Africa, I would depend on the Lord to work through others to provide for my daily needs: food, health, well-being, and transport. Next. Let me tell a story as an example. One day, we learned that the US ambassador was coming with his entourage to see how our projects were going. He planned to visit 4 or 5 of our villages. I rode my bike to Kutaya to check on and spruce up the tree nursery that would be featured at one of the stops. It took me about 25 minutes to bike over the bumpy dirt road to get to Kutaya, and then a 5-minute walk to the tree nursery. I was working with some of the villagers to make sure the plants were weeded and the seedlings well organized when I became ill. I walked back out to the road and sat in a shelter, realizing I was probably dehydrated. There was no way I had the strength to ride home. 2 young men saw that I wasn't feeling well and I asked them to get me some young coconuts, which I knew would have some electrolytes to help me recover. I called my coworkers and explained that I'd left the tree nursery and really needed to get home. One of them left the gathering with the ambassador and took me home on a motorcycle. Once home, I sprawled out on the cool concrete floor. An hour later, another coworker came by my room with the 2 coconuts that those 2 young men had gotten for me by climbing up one of the cocoa palms. I still don't know what made me so ill that day, likely some contaminated water, but God provided people to care for me. As you have heard, my life in Guinea was closer to everyday survival, both for me and those around me. In this context, depending on God for our daily bread really meant daily bread. There were no stocked freezers or supplies of canned goods. In this context, I felt very close to our Savior. As in Isaiah 55:6, search for the Savior because he'll let you find him. Call on him, for he is close. Is anyone thirsty? Come and drink, even if you have no money. Why spend your money on food that does not give you strength? I think about us in America, all the junk food and processed food that we have readily available. We spend our money on material goods and accumulate stuff. How does that help us? How does that help to bring us closer to God? We want another toy, or to buy a lottery ticket, or buy shoes that are the latest trend in footwear. What have you bought recently? Have you truly benefited from that purchase? Next. Compare the stores in Guinea to those in America. In Guinea, stores are small and stock the basic necessities. You go to the window or door and you ask for what you need. In America, we go inside the store where there are aisles upon aisles. What variety! A whole aisle of breakfast cereal. Do we really need all these choices? Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where they can be eaten by moths or get rusty, or where thieves break in and steal. Is our world so full of stuff that we forget what is important? Do we know where to get food that is good for the soul? Where is our treasure? For wherever our treasure is, there our heart and thoughts will also be. People can choose their priorities. They can go all out for money and material things, or for God and spiritual things, but not both. Each person must decide. Guinea has chosen to emphasize the social relationships with each other and with Allah, God. America has chosen hard work, climbing the ladder of social mobility to achieve prosperity, the accumulation of wealth and possessions, the American dream. 2 examples demonstrate this contrast. Guinea's emphasis on the social even extends to phone calls. Next. One day early on, my coworkers and I were walking through a village and my phone rang and I recognized the number of a friend. As we were immersed in work-related conversations, I didn't answer the phone. All my coworkers were like, "Your phone is ringing. Why don't you answer your phone?" I said, "It's just a friend. I'll call him back later." But to them, not answering the phone was rude. There was no separation of work and the rest of life, whereas to me, taking the call in the middle of our work was rude. A second example comes from when I was teaching technical English at the Agricultural University. A relative of one of our coworkers died. That same day, everyone who worked with her left the university to go to the funeral and show their support, even though most of us didn't even know the person who had died. No advance warning to rearrange our schedules. Everyone just left to go to the funeral. Both of these examples show how the social in Guinea trumps what America values as the work ethic. In the words of Will Thompson, softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling for you and for me. He's watching for you and for me. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling calling, O sinner, come home. Home is with Jesus, whether living in Guinea or here in Oregon. The lesson of Guinea is that in order to stay close to God, I need to seek the Lord and call upon him. I must forsake the American dream for a place in heaven. My challenge is to bring that trust in God's providence to my life here in the United States, to trust that God will give me my daily bread. Instead of looking inward and relying on myself, I need to look outward, greet others, accept what they have to offer, and trust in God. In turn, I need to love others and offer them what they need without worrying if I will have enough for tomorrow. It's hard to break out of the American lifestyle, but the Lord will have mercy and pardon me when I fall short. After living here in Springfield, I had a desire to visit Guinea again because of the people, to see my friends. I was nervous before going. It had been 6 years since I'd left Africa. Some of my friends had gotten married, had children. The kids I had taught in elementary school and with whom I had played during the evenings in my room have grown up. There was a coup d'etat in September. This time I would be going as a tourist and taking along Eric, a former housemate. How would it feel to be back in Guinea? Next. I was at ease as soon as I left the airport in Conakry. I felt like I was back home. My friends Balde and Desmond were there to meet me. Getting into Balde's car, the familiar sights and smells welcomed me. I continued to feel comfortable in this foreign land throughout my 3-week trip, spending time with so many of my friends and my host family. Even with the vast differences between the two countries, different climate, different food, different culture, different language, and vastly different levels of development. My American friend, Eric, loved it too. Next. Some of you may remember Ba, a young Ghanaian man I sponsored to come study in the United States. He and Eric became good friends, and Eric wanted to meet Ba's family. During our first week in Guinea, we joined up with Ba's older brother, Angelo, who speaks English and served as translator for Eric, relieving me of that duty. Ba's best friend in Guinea, Yusuf, had a nice air-conditioned car and would take us to Dabala, where another of Ba's brothers lived. Dabala is on the edge of the Sahel, or Upper Guinea, and I had never been there before. Next. The National Highway is in terrible shape, with potholes in the paved areas and much of the road just rock and dirt. The Chinese have a contract to rebuild it, so there are a few stretches of smooth pavement, but these are quickly followed by detours and more bumpy, dusty roads. The distance between Conakry and Dabala is about the distance from Springfield to Prineville, but it took from 6 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. to get there. Driving these roads requires constant vigilance, as cars don't stay in their lanes. They go wherever they can to navigate the smoothest path forward. On our return, anxious to get back to Conakry, Yusuf decided to pass the car ahead on the right. This part of the road was dirt, so as he turned his wheel, we started fishtailing. He had no more control of the vehicle. Sitting in the front seat, I could tell we were going to crash into the semi-trailer driving up the hill. Smash. We spun from the impact, and the car we had just passed ran into the right side rear panel. We continued to spin, coming to a stop further downhill. So after the crash, I had my eyes closed, and I just sat there breathing, assessing what had happened. And I realized, okay, I can breathe. I don't think my ribs are broken. And I open my eyes, and I see people at the door, and they're like, get out, the car might catch on fire. So I looked down. I wasn't quite ready to get out, but I decided I better get out. So I reached down for my purse and my backpack and opened the door and got out of the car and walked over to the side of the road. There I sat down and just kind of focused on what I needed to be doing. But lots of people had started to gather around. And then Angelo came over as well. He had had trouble even getting out of the car. And so some rescuers had come and pulled him out because he wasn't able to walk. So together we sat there. And then someone comes up to me and says, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Would you like to ride a motorcycle to get there?" I'm like, "No." So the closest hospital was in Linsan, about 7 kilometers away. So, but how do you get there? You know, the cars that are coming by are mostly full. And so I call one of my friends in Conakry and I say, "Do you know anybody in Linsan?" He says, "No, I don't know anybody in Linsan." So I'm thinking, well, okay, what else can we do? Sitting there a little longer, someone said, "You need to move further to the side of the road to get out of the sun." So I stand up, went over there, and this time I lay down. And after a bit, someone says, "Okay, we've got a car with some drivers, they can take you, but they're going to take you to Mamu." So Mamu is in the other direction, away from Conakry, but it's a bigger city and has a better hospital. So this couple took 3 of us. The driver stayed behind with the car. So the 3 of us got in the back seat and we drive to Mamu. I'm in the middle and this driver is going fast and I'm just not comfortable. And I kept saying, slow down, please, slow down." And he's like, "It's okay, it's okay. You just had a crisis, you know, it's okay." I'm like, "No, I'm in pain. I think I've broken something." It's like, "Okay, we'll get you there, fine." So then we almost crash into the next car as it's over on our side, and it's like we could have gone off the hill, but no, made it. So we arrive in the hospital, go to the emergency room, lots of people around, none of them wearing masks. I get a little bed. Eric and Angelo are on benches by the side because there weren't enough beds. And they asked, "Would you like a shot for your pain?" I'm like, "No, thank you." They had asked Eric the same thing. He said, "No, thank you," for a different reason. He thought there might be HIV, which there really isn't too much of in Guinea. I just was more concerned about them knowing where to put the shot. So they said, "Okay, how about some pills?" I said, "Okay, I'll take those pills, no problem." Then they decided they should give me an x-ray, which I agreed with. So went back, got an x-ray. Angelo also got an x-ray of his chest and his hip because it was his hip really that was making it so difficult for him to walk. Eric, thank goodness, really only had pain in his neck. So after a while, we get the results of the x-ray. Fortunately, no bones broken. Nobody was bleeding. They had cleaned me up. Amazingly, they brought warm water in which to wash off my feet and such, a nice little luxury in this hospital. So the people that had driven us there had said, "Before you pay the bill, give me a call. I'm an attorney. I just want to make sure they're going to charge you right." So we get the bill, give the guy a call. He says, "Okay, that sounds right." I mean, it's like $12 for the emergency room and maybe $8 for the x-ray. So it's not like it's going to be, they were overcharging us. And he says, "You're welcome to come stay with me this evening." So I talked to Eric. I said, "Well, there's a hotel across the street from the hospital, or we can go stay with this guy. Do you have a preference?" And Eric didn't really care. He'd really rather go back to Conakry. I was like, "No, I need to rest. We're staying here tonight." So we decided to go to this guy's house. He actually lives in Conakry, but he had this house in Mamu where he would come and spend weekends. It's actually the nicest house I'd seen in Guinea. Not big, but very well. I mean, it had an interior bathroom with hot water, furniture, different bedrooms. So I had my own bedroom. Eric had a bedroom. Angelo had a room in another building. They brought us dinner. So after dinner, I went to sleep. Angelo, however, had gotten a prescription painkiller for shots, and nobody really knew how to administer the shot because there wasn't really any dosage. So he was having some pain. So he asked to sleep with Eric in that room so he wouldn't have to be by himself. So they shared a room. Then about midnight that night, here comes Yusuf. He had called his cousin in Kindia, which is between where we crashed in Conakry, to come on his motorcycle. So his cousin had ridden from Kindia to the accident site, and then they had gotten a motorcycle taxi, taken all of our luggage and loaded it up on those 2 motorcycles and ridden at night through those dusty roads after he'd had the accident to meet us at this guy's house in the middle or on the outskirts of Mamu. So our luggage is now with us. Then the next morning, we wake up and the question is, how do we get back to Conakry? Because the car was totally totaled, as you can see. So in the meantime, there had been, I left out a little bit. You know, remember how social people are and always talking on the phone. So while we were in the hospital, Angelo had called his relatives, and of course, all those relatives are calling each other saying, oh no, they've had a crash. So while we're there, Angelo keeps coming over to me, oh, it's this relative wants to talk to you. You know, this is not exactly what I'm wanting to do while I'm sitting in the hospital, like in pain, talking to people. But he keeps coming over, you know, they're all concerned, showing their concern because they want to talk to me on the phone. So I try to be patient, talk to them. So one of the cousins of this family lives in Mamu. So he came to the hospital the previous day, but he also came back that next morning. And not only that, but Ba's mother, who we weren't able to see, decided that she needed to come and see us. So she had gotten a taxi and taken it down to Mamu so that she could come to the house and see how we were doing. So this couple that had welcomed us now has these people that showed up at midnight, as well as these other relatives of the people in my party, coming to see how everybody is. You can go ahead to this next slide. So on the left there, you see the couple that welcomed us, and on the right, you see Ba's mother who had come. So we asked the cousin to see if he can arrange a ride for us back to Conakry. I said, I have 3 criteria for this. This needs to be a car that has all the seat belts, that's air conditioned, and the driver that's willing to drive slowly. So it took a while, but finally they found a driver in a car that would meet those 3 criteria. So he's driving up, can't find where we are. So the cousin has to go on his motorcycle to go meet this taxi driver so that he can come to where we're staying. So he comes, and then we get in the car, and we're going down to the center of Mamu, and I'm hearing like, oh dear, that doesn't sound good. Eric, what do you think? That doesn't sound like those brakes are in good shape. He doesn't say anything. I'm like, all right, well, we'll just let it go. So we get down to the center. The driver is not a regular taxi driver. He actually works for the school district. But so he has to go by his house to tell his wife that he's going to be going to Conakry, so change of plans here. And then we go downtown where he changes the tires. And then he says, okay, why don't you leave here, wait here, I need to go change some plaque. Well, I thought plaque meant the license plate, which I'm like, why would you change the license plate? Okay, but that sounds fine, go do that. So we left. So Angelo, Eric, and I are sitting on the side of the street waiting for him to come back, and it's like an hour later, and we're like, God, where is he? Eric starts to get nervous because he's got all of our bags in his car. We don't know who this guy is. We don't even have a phone number for him. I'm like, he'll come back. But don't know when. So we call the cousin to ask the cousin to find out the phone number of this taxi driver so that we can get a hold of him and find out what's going on. So after about 15 minutes, the cousin calls back. We've got the phone number for the taxi driver. I call him up. Turns out he's actually changing the brakes at the repair shop, not the license plate. So I said, okay, well, that's fine. How long do you think it'll be? Oh, they assure me we'll be done in 20 minutes. I say, do you promise you'll be done in 20 minutes? He says, yes. 20 minutes, not there. So call him again. I was like, are you still coming? He said, yes. Okay. 20 more minutes, he arrives. By now, it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And we still need to get back to Conakry. So he comes back and I say, look, I really appreciate that you changed the brakes. That's a good idea when we're going on this road. It would have just been nice to communicate what was going on ahead of time. It's like, I understand. All right. So we get in the car and we're driving back to Conakry. And he actually is a good, safe driver. And sitting in the back, because I didn't want to seatbelt on the same places it had hit me before, I was actually able to close my eyes and stop watching the road ahead because I had enough confidence in this driver to get us back. And we got back to the hotel about 11:30 that night. And throughout all of this, the fact that we didn't go over the edge of the cliff, the fact that none of us had any gaping wounds or broken bones, it was the angels that saved us and took care of us every step of that way. So the bad part of Guinea, the roads and the medical care. But the great part of Guinea, all the people that will come to your aid and take care of you and make sure that you are safe. In the words of Paul Gerhardt, as translated by John Wesley, give to the winds your fear. Leave to his sovereign will to choose and to command. With wonder filled, you then shall own how wise, how strong his hand. Brought to Guinea by God, Eric hadn't ever felt so alive. He hated the roads, but he loved the people. He plans to go back and feels comfortable going without me next time, even though he doesn't speak French or any of the local languages. Eric, like me, has learned the lesson of Guinea. Those who put God first can rest assured that God knows their needs and will not fail to supply them. They can be free from worry. God's everlasting covenant, God's steadfast love.
Thank you, Sandy. What a story. We're grateful that you shared your experience with us. I invite you now to, what are we doing? Song.
Here in this place, new light is streaming. Now is the darkness vanished away. See in this space our fears and our dreamings, brought here to you in the light of this day. Gather us in the lost and forsaken. Gather us in the blind and the lame. Call to now and we shall awaken. We shall arise at the sound of our name. We are the young, our lives are a mystery. We are the old, whose yearn for your face. We have been sung throughout all of history, called to be light to the whole human race. Gather us in the rich and the haughty, gather us in the proud and the strong. Give us a heart so meek and so lowly. Give us the courage to enter the song. of new birth. Here you shall call your sons and your daughters, call us anew to be salt for the earth. Give us to drink the wine of compassion, give us to eat the bread that is you. Nourish us well and teach us to fashion lives that are holy and hearts that are true. Not in the dark of buildings confining, not in some heaven light years away, but here in this place the new light is shining. Now is the kingdom, now is the day. Gather us in and hold us forever. Gather us in and make us your own. Gather us in, all peoples together. Fire of love in our flesh and our bone.
Thank you so much for that song. It's our prayer time today. I invite you to fill out a prayer request and give it to the ushers. And if you'd like to come down and light a candle, you're welcome to do so. Let's gather up our prayers.